Virginia Satir, internationally recognized as a pioneer in family therapy and human relations, dedicated her life to developing and teaching skills to improve relationships in both families and organizations. Her goal was to raise consciousness about the importance of world peace, individual health, and personal responsibility. This videotape training series demonstrates these goals. Although Virginia died in 1988, her wisdom and spirit live on through her teachings. In 1987, Virginia Satir was videotaped at the Avanta-sponsored Virginia Satir International Summer Institute in Crested Butte, Colorado. In this human learning laboratory, Virginia and her training staff worked for 4 weeks with 90 people from around the world. Tape is one of a series which contains specially selected teaching units from the last process community that Virginia taught.
So now I can add another piece to the learning context, which is that learning is change. Everything that fits change. I want to learn a different skill. I want to get rid of a certain habit. I want to accomplish this. Whatever that is a comment on a process of change. And what I want to give you at this moment is a process of change that I believe can be utilized at any moment in time. It's the ingredients of what happens to the change process, what happens in it. So if we can now think therapy is change, education is change, losing weight is change, giving up smoking is change, all those things are change. And they will all follow the same points in process. There's not a different process for giving up smoking as for acquiring a habit. None whatsoever. So, and there's not a difference in the change of acquiring some new information as anything else. So this is a universal process. One thing you're going to be hearing, at least from where I sit, is you will learn how to universals. Universals are always process. And every universal can be applied specifically. So to know the universal behind anything specific gives you help. To have a specific and be able to find the universal is also a big help. So when I say to you what I'm going to talk about here in process is universal, and it relates to any kind of learning situation. Okay, there are 5 steps to this, or 5 stages. And I want to go over these this time, and then let's see where we are with that. Because you to be successful here, which I know you will be, I already know that, you will have gone through these stages many times. Okay. And remember what I said this morning, it's all for stars in your eyes. And the stars mean something has happened. Okay. We're going to look at stage 1. Stage 1 is always the description of status quo, whatever that is. We'll get to the place of where status quo in this process means something, I think, very important. For me, it means that at this point in time, I am in a process or in a system where I can predict. I can predict what will happen. And all of us human beings seem to be comfortable when we can predict, even if it's a negative prediction. There's a certain sense of familiarity is better than comfort with that I can predict. I know that if I do that to somebody, they'll kick me back. By the way, this is all part of systems thinking, but anyway. So I can predict. That means that I'm operating with a set of assumptions that lead to that prediction, and I can rely on them. Everybody who's ever had a symptom knows they can rely on that symptom when it's related, however it's related. So Prediction gives us a sense of familiarity. And when we are familiar with something, we can at least feel that we're grounded in some way. No matter how terrible it is, it's familiar. This is one of the paradoxes of our life, that familiarity is stronger than comfort. How many of you have experience of knowing that something was comfortable but the other was more familiar? Let me see. And you found yourself going to the familiar. So it took a lot of work to go to the comfort. That's just how it is. So here's stage one, when we start looking at the change process. Now, nothing else will follow unless something happens to somehow say in some way to a person at this stage, there's something that's going to be better, and it gets strong enough to be able to ask the person to act. Now, for those of you who are therapists, the usual way in which somebody comes to you on this level is from threat, some threat. Go to see a counselor or I'll divorce you. If you don't go and get counseling, you go to jail. You're all familiar with that. That, however, is also a familiar thing because many of us were brought up with threat. Remember that? If you don't do this, I won't love you. You can't do this. Mother will be unhappy or father will be unhappy. Threat is familiar to us. And threat always means do this or else. So the threat means that or else. That puts us right in the middle of a stress to do it or else. Now the positive part of this is that maybe if the threat wasn't there for some people, they wouldn't move at all. So there's a positive part to that. But anyway, for my work right now, the current situation is status quo, and there is a set of predictions and assumptions that you can rely on that you're living with. And that is as though it were written in blood. It isn't, but it feels that way. And that your feet are in concrete. That familiarity is. It's written in blood, and your feet are in concrete. All that is to say is that sounds pretty solid. Every one of you who has a conclusion has got plenty of evidence to back it up. If any of you tell me that mother didn't care about you, you'll give me numbers of evidences that that's true. Of course, you'll forget about all the others. I'll help you with that one. Feet in concrete, written in blood, feet in concrete. Now, I'm exaggerating, but it might sound like it. The process of change is like a surgical operation. It needs the same care, the same precision that we would give to the most delicate surgical operation. So here we are, written in blood, feet in concrete, backed up by experience. That's how it always was. However, the result of all this is I don't have any friends. I keep having this terrible pain in my body. I keep failing, keep missing the bus or whatever I keep missing. Or I don't grow, or I don't get loved, or I don't know what. Can't learn. When that need gets strong enough for the person to take the courage stick in their hands and move, because even the people who are threatened have to take the courage to go. Some of you know this story, or maybe you don't. I came in, this is many years ago, but I never forgot it. I came into my office and there sits a group of people, a family, and they all look like sour and glum. And I said to them, what do you want to have happen? They said, don't you know? I said, well, I don't know. Why should I know? Well, they said, the judge sentenced us to you. I said, what judge? Then it came out that this judge, I knew who he was. I had given a seminar to the judges not so long ago, not too long before that. And I had said I was available. So he said to this guy, you go and see Virginia. I said, what was the alternative? Well, he would go to jail. I said, why didn't you take that? We didn't want to. Oh, I said, so you chose to come here, huh? Yes, that was the end, so we could work from choice then. So that choice is always present. I think we need to remember that. That whenever we take a step, choice is always present. But it not be so obvious. You know that any time you make a choice to endure or to go out, it's a choice. You make it. And I think we have to know that. No matter how much you say somebody made me do it, nobody can open your mouth unless you have a crowbar. And even then, some people crack their teeth instead. All right. So this is the context of the beginning of change. Something has happened to ask the person to take the risk on some level to move into the unknown, because this is the first step to going into the unknown. This is all familiar. All familiar. And I can stake my life on it. I know exactly what's going to happen. But the need to change is so great that I then give myself permission on some level to go to the unknown. Now I'm going to say something that will sound very stupid, but I don't think it is. You have never been. Is that true? So therefore, always going to where you've never been is the unknown. And the unknown is one of the most challenging things for us to enter, because we've been told all our lives that we should only stay with the familiar. Don't go around poking around and trying to see what's there. You might find something you shouldn't have. All right, so this is, when I first started working with this process of change, I didn't really know the depth of what this really was all about. But I know it now. I have such respect for the status quo, because I know that it's in the status quo where people are sensing the failure, and therefore they are feeling they can survive. Whatever the price is, I can still survive. No matter how many times I need to get beaten, or how much I can't eat, or whatever, I'm surviving. And if I don't know what else is around, I'm going to cling to that. Now, we in psychology have a term for that, but it's not limited. And that is, when we start in the process of change, we encounter resistance. And what I would tell you here and now, resistance is our friend. Why? Because resistance says, I want to live. I want to live. To break down resistance is to court death. So what do we want to do with resistance? First of all, to hear it respectfully. That this is the personality or ourselves telling us we don't know any other way to live yet. And therefore, we want to respect this. As leaders of the change process, which I believe I am, and I think you all are in some way, and will be more so, I want to find a way of encompassing the resistance as a survival factor and move into some new ways to survive without the resistance. That means I'm more like the sun. You know that old story about the sun and the wind had a competition? There was a man down there with a coat on. And the sun said to the wind, I think I can get his coat off faster than you. And the wind said, no, I can do it. So the wind blew and blew and blew. And all the man just held his coat tighter. Sun says, I know how to fix that. So he just shone and shone. And all of a sudden the coat came off because the man was too hot. I like that story, because there are plenty of people around who say, break the resistance. Break the spirit. How many of you know about that? Okay. I hope you don't indulge in that anymore. All right. So here is the stage one. That's status quo. All right. Now I'm going to go to stage two. Stage two is the introduction of a foreign element. What does that mean? That means that something is coming into the established system, which I showed you here, that has got to change things. Now, The introduction of a foreign element is a wish to change that is so great that you're going to keep on it. You're going to keep your patience on it. You're going to keep your interest in it. Wish to change. It can also be a person who comes in. It's a wish to change. It can be a person, like a therapist. It's somebody engages because they want to go somewhere. Whatever it is going to ask the status quo to now go into chaos. This is stage 2, the introduction of a foreign element. And the following of that will have to be stage 3, which is chaos. What does that mean? It simply means that the old order can no longer function because something new has been added. I'll take it in a very small way. Let's suppose that there was someone here who lost pounds. Now that is that introduction of a foreign element to the old status quo. You go in your closet and all your clothes don't fit you anymore, do they? So now you have the whole business about your whole closet doesn't, and you need to do something about it. Of course, you can always put on the old ones that hang and then tell everybody how much weight you lost, but that doesn't help very much because you don't look so good. Or I can give anything, any movement in or out on a limited basis means we have to reorganize. So another way of talking about this is that the status quo has to be in some way modified to include the introduction of the foreign element. So we're looking for, at the minimum, a modification of the former status quo. Modification of the former status quo. Of course, I think more has to happen, but at least we can say that. We know that there's got to be something different happening. Now, I'll come back to this introduction of the foreign element. Let us put it in the basis of I'm trying to help you with something. You've come to me and you have said, Virginia, I'd like to enter into something with you. I'd like to learn how to have more confidence, as an example. Or you're a family that comes to me and says that kid wets the bed and he's already 22, whatever that is. So I say, okay, let's see. All right. Now, people come with a positive wish. And I know that this is what the honeymoon is made of. And I know that that wish is there. But then when we move into wanting to change, and I begin to just to be there and to ask questions, I get the resistance. And other people will say, well, maybe you didn't mean it when you wanted to say you change. I know you mean it. But I know also that here is the status quo that has no place for you. All right. So that at this point in time, if I'm the leader of the change process, I stand alone. And I also know that I am vulnerable to being kicked out. It's like an organ transplant. You put in the unfamiliar object into another body, and the body works hard to get rid of it because it doesn't belong there. And then we've had to work medically with a lot of things in order to tell the body, it's okay, it's going to be helpful to you. You will be better, or your kidneys will work better, or something. And so the wish to throw off the intervener is strong. This is a very hard point. This is like when you decide that you're going to change a habit, and you get into it, and all of a sudden you feel alienated from yourself. My gosh, why is it so hard? All I do is want to stop smoking, or something. So anyway, so this is this first period, stage 1, period of stress. Here's another period of stress. Remember, I likened this to a surgical operation with tremendous precision. And like a respect for also the stages we go through. This whole month is of stages of moving through the change process. Not once, but many times, on many levels. All right, now we're in stage 3. Oh, I would like to say, sometimes for the individual, all that's here is, I hope it can happen. I want it to happen. but I don't see any way of it. So you're putting your faith on your hope. I can't tell you how many people have ridden through with me. They didn't know where they could go, but they had the hope, and I kept feeding the hope. We'll find a place, and we did. In fact, it's always there. So we'll go a little bit more into stage 3 now, the chaos. Now, when I talked this morning, you came from there, and then Linda and did this thing back and forth, and I call that limbo, remember? All right, by the time you get to stage 3, you're far enough away from where you came, but not close enough to where you're going, so that there's no place to develop a status quo. That's what the limbo is about. And so when the physical symptoms of this part are often headaches, belly aches, back aches, dreams, or you can't sleep, and so on and so on. It's only temporary. But it's like a real change going on. So stage 3, which is chaos, puts you into the limbo period because there is no way for you to predict at this moment. Now, whatever I do, or what I do at that point, is I work on breathing, because I know that's going to help people know they're alive. Relax, because I know that what's going to happen, physical relaxation, that they're going to allow themselves to be receptive. And then to have the literal experience of feeling the power that comes from that, or the strength. Okay. This is a period, since we don't know where we're going, in which we have an opportunity for catastrophic expectations. Because we have been warned ever since we've been little, watch out for that new thing, the new kid on the block, new idea, many of us have. So the catastrophic expectations, and that we are disobeying. All right. So we practice this. I don't know how many times you'll want to practice breathing and relaxation and feeling that sense of your centeredness. Because another way of thinking about this is arriving at a place of centeredness. And that has nothing to do with issue. That has to do with putting yourself, that wonderful being that you are, into a state of strength. All right. So I've already said to you, this limbo period, we have left where we were, and we are going someplace that we haven't gotten to yet. That's the same thing Tom was talking about. And this limbo period, then, is one in which we can experience new possibilities in the limbo period. Because the old is not reliable. How many of you worked with crisis services? Anyone here work with crisis services? All right. Crisis services give us an opportunity to experience something new. And so in a way, nothing can happen in the way of change unless chaos appears. Otherwise, you're just playing the same old drum. So when you begin to get these anxiety feelings, one of the things that's important, I'm in chaos. I'm in chaos. And that is essential for change. When I first started talking about that, at first people didn't really understand. I didn't know how to make it as clear as I do now. But now when I talk about it to people, they say, thank heavens, what I'm going through is normal. I thought it was abnormal. All right, so all this is going on. Now, because we're in limbo, there is a certain kind of openness. And in that openness, we can begin a new kind of experimentation. And that new experimentation, for instance, if you've never been able to say, I want, because you always thought, when you were growing up, my mother always told me that I should wait. If I got it, it would be because I was good, and if not, it was because I was bad, but I should shut my mouth. I don't know if anyone had those experiences. So, you come, and you say, I can't ask for what I want. So I say, would you like to? Oh, yes. But I can't. And then I see people sweat on their faces, and I see them tight in their bodies, and their eyes kind of bug out like the fury is behind them or will come to them. All right. So that's in the first stage, that I want, but I can't. Then I come in, and I And I say, well, we can take a look. I never promise anybody anything. I say, we'll take a look. And I am so sure of the growth potential of every human being that I don't have to promise them anything. So I never do. We'll go along together. We will ride. All right. So we come then. We come into this limbo period. And this person begins to cry. And I might go and I might just put my hand on. My hands and my voice tone. And my willingness to ask people to breathe. These three things are very strong. And so I'll say, how are you feeling? Just share what's going on with you right now. And I feel a trembling in the body. Almost all of you must know something about that. And then as the person quiets down in a soft voice, they'll say, I would like you to love me, to somebody in the family. And I say, how was it for your throat to let those words come out? It feels good. Now, what I've done then is taken the unspeakable in this chaos place, made it speakable, and not only that, but accompanied it with all the nurturing and loving that could happen. Now that's really what happens as far as change is concerned. I do not believe, and you can argue with me, but it won't do you any good because I will not give on this point, which is I do not believe that any real learning comes out of pounding people. I do not believe it. I do not believe punishment or deprivation ever taught anybody any except how to be rageful and resentful and sick, physically sick. All right, so now, the first time that the person experiences something new, then we have to look around and see who dropped dead. If I do that, who will drop dead? We look around and everybody not only hasn't dropped dead, but they look like they're excited. You mean? Because if you can do it, maybe I can do it. All right, so this is the stage of chaos. This is the stage where whoever is dealing with this, when you're doing it from the outside, actually is the only one who knows what's going on. I didn't learn that for a long time because I had some mishigas about I didn't want to inflict my power on anybody, and every once in a while I became a fallen leader because I was leading, but I didn't want to inflict anything. So then these poor people, they were out there and they didn't have a leader. It was a while before I learned that using my power to help people grow was not the same as bossing them. I hope you'll learn that. Many people have a hard time with that. Now this is the part where the change begins. The other two stages are preparation. And they need to be handled in the same wonderful way. All right, now when we have already got some new experience here, we're ready then for some practice. That's stage 4. Stage 4 is practice. Now, how do you remind yourself of something you've already experienced? First time that you say, I want, and you've had 99 billion times before wanted to and didn't, the first time you say, I want, it feels puny. Isn't that a wonderful word, puny? And you must feel puny about that. And so it's so little in comparison to the pull of the familiar. It's easy to stamp out that new little seed. But so you need ways to practice and remind yourself. I used to make fun of things like little things that said, remember that you want to write a letter. Give yourself permission to breathe, and all those little things. Putting things in your wallet that would say, you're a good person. The only problem with you is you don't know it yet. Or things like that. And then you can add humor too if you want. So the practice period, which means you have to bring things to consciousness. And bringing things to consciousness, then what do you want to remember? Out of this day today, I will ask you tonight, put down what came out of this day that you want to remember. Write it down, dance it, color it. Something that says, I'm figuring this out so it really means something to me. That's what the practice period is. Now, when we've practiced enough, we go to another stage. We are now at the, I always love the foothills of the mountains. We're at the foothill of a new possibility, which is stage 5, reaching a new status quo. We have now a new way to predict and assume. I now can say what I want. Wonderful. So I'm in a new place, and all kinds of other things in a new place. I'm in a new status quo. Now, these stages can go fast. Some of them go faster than others, and they are some of them slower. I do not expect people to go at the same rate because there are different things along the way. There are different images and feelings in relation to giving up things, different images and feelings about guilt and such like, so that we travel in rates. Different members of the family travel at different rates. You will travel at different rates. What is important is for you to know where you are at a moment in time. Now, these are, I'm now going to shorthand this a bit. Stage 1 is status quo with all that means. Stage 2 is the intervening for an element. Number 3 is chaos. 4 is practice. And 5 is a new status quo. You are entering the world with a new approach. All right. Now I want to give you something like this. Every single one of these states is accompanied by body feelings. And in the beginning, when you start this, I would say that at the beginning, it is 99% anxiety and 1% comfort, if it's that. As we move through, we can move to the next stage where we stay pretty much about the same. We go to the chaos stage, and at the end of that, we probably are about 50% anxiety and 50% comfort. We're into something new because our feet are into a new place. We don't feel so wobbly. And we move into practice, and we probably come out of that one about, let's say, 60% and 40%. I never did this on research. Remember that. Don't quote me on that. But I know clinically how this happens. So we are down now to 40% anxiety and 60% comfort. And in the new state, we enter it about that way. We move and live in the new state. We probably can enhance the new state to 70% comfort and 30% anxiety. Now, that's not a balance. And I don't even think anxiety and comfort ever should be a balance, but that's where it is. Now, because there is a difference in the amount of comfort, the inside of us, which I absolutely believe that the growth factor in us just wants to slurp up comfort. It really does. You give it the least possible opportunity, and it's going to go out. All right. The first time around is the hardest. It's the hardest to live through this first time. Now, I'm going to do another one. This time I'm going to use symbols. This is a symbol for the status quo. Everything looks like we're settled. Here's the symbol for the introduction of a foreign element. Here's a symbol for chaos. And then comes into the practice. And then comes into a new status quo. All right. Security here. Price for security here, high. Price for security here, lower. This is cycle 1. And we could call 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many people I've held up to get to this point. Once we get to this point, the going is pretty good. I know that I've worked with the people nobody else would have in my work. I fished people out of the gutters. West Madison Street took people that nobody else wanted, and we were able to do things. I didn't know what I was doing then, but I know now what I was doing. I told you at the end of cycle 1, more or less, we could go up as high as 70% comfort and 30% anxiety. We're still, however, dealing with the anxiety syndrome. Now, at the end of the new status quo, because you got more courage, you're going to make that then the beginning of a new cycle and look for a new introduction of introduction of a foreign element. And that'll bring some new chaos, and that'll bring a new practice, that'll bring a new status quo. Now that's cycle 2. By this time, we're getting a little used to the fact that, hey, we can do it. All right? So now, at the end of this one, put these numbers here, we are beginning to look forward to some new possibilities. And so here comes, and this time the introduction of a foreign element can be something that already feels that there is something that is familiar about this. Hey, wonderful. And now the chaos comes, but the chaos feels more like a ride on the roller coaster or the merry-go-round or moving in a dance. Hey. And there's more practice, and then we come to a new status quo. And by the time we have done this 3 times, we have moved from sickness into health. We have moved from a feeling of rejection to a feeling of acceptance, and that we're now ready for things to meet life with. And now at this point in time, we're probably close to 99% comfort and maybe 1% anxiety, just so we don't forget how to use it. So then it keeps on going. I've been fiddling around with older people, other older people that I had it in life and so on. And as I do this, and how many people come up to now, their vitality is here. Here is, as we reduce the anxiety level and increase the comfort level, we bring vitality into people's lives. You will hear a lot during this time about what stands in our way of vitality. Part of it is our rules from the growing up. Once I presented this to a group of medical people, and they said, Virginia, do you realize that that's also a picture of a heartbeat? So this graph. All right, now the stages of change. Then, you are at the first level. When you made a decision to come here, you were in a status quo. And it's not to be judged good or bad, that's where you were. And you gave yourself permission to come here, which is what we all do when we want to reach out for something. And you come. And the introduction of the foreign element is the place, is the people, is me, is all the things that are different. And then the business about how the chaos fits. I don't like this bedroom. It doesn't have the right carpet. Or, gee, I wanted to be with her. Or I don't know what. I don't know. All kinds of stuff. Isn't this wonderful? That's all part of it. So as we move into this, we are experiencing the process of change, which is simultaneous with the process of growth. So the process of change is actually the process of growth. Now, I want to talk a minute about this. Growth can be like cancer. That's growth. It can be like a tree abundantly growing. So what I want to be clear about for you is that we can grow negatively as well as positively. Change doesn't necessarily mean that it is going into a positive direction. I want to always put that in, because one thing that happens is that people think there's one way that you can make it positive and another force that makes it negative. Any changes anything has the power of dynamite. We have the opportunity and the responsibility to direct that growth. Brainwashing follows these same principles, by the way. Because for people to behave in these horrible ways, like they did in Germany and other places during the Nazi period, they had to be able to change all kinds of stuff. So I just want that to be clear. There is nothing light about change. It's heavy in the sense of it's powerful. Not heavy, but powerful. I respect it. Now, I expect and hope, expect is maybe not the right word, but hope is that as we move through these different cycles, we're going to be able to identify, here's where I am right now. I'm scared to death. And the rest of you says, wonderful. Not that you're scared to death, but you know where you are. We're in a chaos period right now. Wonderful. Not wonderful that you have it, but wonderful that you're aware of it. Now I want to say a couple more things, and then let's see where we go from there. I think I can do it from this diagram. Failures, in my opinion, that have happened in therapy and that have happened in other forms where people wanted to grow in schools, is that people reach the chaos period, get scared, and run back to the status quo. They don't know how to go beyond it. And that is what the sadness is all about. How many kids in school, the teachers want to help them, but then they get scared. They start to act out a little bit because we're full of anxiety. And so they run back to where it's secure. Long, involved therapy things, I think, are the same way. We run back to the status quo.
Avanta, the Virginia Satir Network, founded in 1977, is a nonprofit educational organization. Membership is worldwide, representing a variety of professions. Avanta sponsors workshops, advanced training programs, international summer institutes, and conferences dedicated to guiding people of the world to become more fully human.